Hi and welcome to this week's weekly quickie. Today I'm going to talk about something that I've only just worked out that I was going to discuss, and that is plotting. So this is not something that I regularly do. It actually tends to be sort of superficial when I'm writing. So on a typical day when I start a new book, I have the initial idea. I might have the first few chapters already played out in my head and I start writing those. I may or may not have an idea of where the book's going to end. It's actually very unusual for me to plot a whole book out. Very, very unusual. And I think that's been what's stalling me with Wraith a lot, because I think once you get into sequels, it's really hard not to have an idea of where things are going, because otherwise you're just making shit up as you go. So to try and help Wraith actually get off the ground and get moving again, I've been plotting. Don't get scared, as scared as I am anyway, because the muse doesn't do this shit lightly. One of the things that I first started doing was actually a mind map of Essence and what their motivations were and what their tactics were for getting what they want. So that was the first thing that came about. And with that, I mapped out their purpose for being, the methods by which they have gone about getting what they want, and then the plot intention in each of the books. So I started off with what the plot intention was in Spectra, and then I've added in Wraith, and then I've crossed it all over to see where the overlap in those intentions are in each book and how they've shifted their focus to get what they want now in Wraith after the outcome of Spectra. So that was the first thing I did. The second thing that happened was this week while driving, this seems to be a tendency. I think we should all be scared if you share the road with me. The muse actually showed me how Wraith was going to end. Now, one of the things that you may or may not be happy to know is that there's going to be a third book based on this current ending. So there's that. The downside to that is I've still got to finish this book to be able to get to that third book. But it was good because now I know where I'm heading in this book. So I was then able to come back and do some reverse plotting. Now this was all very new to me, and it just turned out that a writer that I really, really like, who gives really, really good writing advice on her YouTube channel, Jenna Moresi, actually wrote about 10 of the hang-ups of writing and how to get over them, and one of them was reverse plotting. So I think that was rather apt in the fact that I had just done this, and I basically got my corkboard up, which is a technology corkboard, not an actual real corkboard. I should probably invest in one of those, might be helpful. But I opened my Scrivener, I got the corkboard up, and I actually started plotting out each of the chapters from the back to the front to where I am. Now there's still some gaps in the middle, and I'm allowing that because the story needs to be filled up a bit more, and also we know what the muse can be like. She goes on her little wayward ways sometimes. So that has been my week, and that's what I've sort of been focused on this week, when I've had the spare time to do, because it's not taking an absurd amount of time to sit down and actually work on this. On the downside to this, it's meant that I haven't been able to get my OSAL or of Shadow and Lights edits completed this week, and that's because out of nowhere the muse decided to add in an extra 2 chapters to Of Shadow and Light over the last weekend, which required me writing them this week. And of course I had the busiest week of work that I've had in quite a while, and by the time I got home I was exhausted, and in a lot of cases still actually working when I got home. Plus I started a new course on Tuesday night, and there was a lot of other stuff happening, so it just didn't happen. So I apologise if you're an Of Shadow and Light reader. But on the bonus side, you are actually getting brand new chapters never seen before that weren't on Wattpad, and the plot has shifted because of those chapters. So it may all work out in the better end because you will have a better ending. Yeah, that's just getting complicated now. Let's move on. So with writing this week, obviously I've just covered this in the fact that I didn't do much writing this week, other than last weekend I was working on In Bloom and Of Shadow and Light, and there's been a lot of extra chapters added into Of Shadow and Light. I think so far we're at a count of 6 extra chapters overall in the book, and a lot of them are now in the end part of the book. There was also some writing done on Since Child, so as I've been going through and editing that, I've been adding in the blogs that never before actually existed. So nearly every single chapter now has a blog post from Callie. Anyway, so those blog posts never existed when on the Wattpad version. So if you've been reading the Wattpad version, you're going to miss out on those because the Radish version has extra content. And I've also been doing a lot of clarification around her emotions towards the guys and her conflict in who she believes is who in the book. So there's been a lot of clarification happening in that. So I'm effectively doing a rewrite on Sin's Child, and I've been doing a rewrite of Shadow and Light this week and last week and possibly the few weeks before that. But it's just all culminated in the fact that my timeline has now got away from me and I haven't been able to get some stuff done this week. C'est la vie, that's how it goes. I'm not sure if there's going to be a blog next week, but if there is going to be a blog next week, I have no idea what the topic is going to be. How about you tell me? You write to me, put it in the weekly quickie questionnaire. You tell me what the blog theme is going to be for next week, and I'll work with that. Sound good? I like it. Let's go with that. This week's questions. First question, how far along are you with In Bloom? Not very far at all. I think I'm 4 chapters into it. It's taking a long time to write. There's some very complicated backstory in there that I'm trying to slot in without it becoming boring and onerous, but also sorting out what that backstory is. The muse is still showing me bits and pieces as I go, plus she's also showing me flashes of what potential plot is here for this book. So I haven't got very far with it. There's a lot of heavy emotion with it in the first couple of chapters, so that's what I'm dealing with. So it hasn't got very far at all. Question 2. Do you have a blurb done for In Bloom yet? If yes, can you share? No. No to both of those. No, I don't have one done, so no, I can't share it. Sorry. Question 3. In Shadow and Light. I love how you have changed it so far. So many minor details, but a lot added. So worth buying it. Are we going to have more big plot changes coming up to the end? I don't think so. I think how Tynan's going to handle the Margot situation has changed dramatically, but there's not going to be much in the change from the original of how things play out for Tynan and Mess. That's all I'm going to say on that one. Question 4. In Of Shadow and Light, where did the name Juice come from? I get most of my names from babynames.com.au. It's a really good site. And the explanation for the name Juice actually is explained by Mess a little bit later. So that will come in then. But basically I looked up names within their nationality, if that's right. And that's where I came up from it there. Okay, so that's all I've got for you this week. If you have any questions for next week, remember to get them in by Wednesday night so that they're right to go on the weekend. I hope you've all had a great weekend and have a good week coming up. Thanks, bye.